Hi guys, what's up? Now in this video I would like to talk about some differences between using enamels and acrylics for painting scale models. On the left hand side we see some Revell Aqua Color acrylics and on the right side some Revell enamels. Of course these are not the only colors used for scale modeling, I'm just using this at the moment. So first let us mention the main difference between the two, which is in its solvent used. Acrylics have water and enamels have oil as a solvent. This brings us to the kind of thinner we use to dilute the paints. With acrylics we normally use water, which is obviously a plus since we have a lot of water at our disposal and it's a green solvent, meaning it is not environmentally damaging. Water is hence always a good option. On the other side, enamels are a little bit trickier to work with. We have to dilute them with so-called enamel thinners, like the one I'm using at the moment, which is Revell Color Mix. Chemically, it consists of naphtha. This is essentially a mixture of different hydrocarbons obtained from condensates and distillates and isopropanol or isopropyl alcohol. Now the exact chemical structure and proportions used are unknown here. But on the little side note, you can also use acetone to dilute enamels and I will talk about it later. Being the fact that acrylics use water, they are easier to clean from brushes, which is another advantage over enamels where you have to use specific solvents to do the job. For example, Revell Paint-A-Clean would do. Another plus from using acrylics is that they dry way faster. They are usually touch dry within 15 minutes, where enamels take around 24 hours to be perfectly dry. Another important advantage over enamels is that acrylics are virtually non-damaging to your health. They are non-toxic and without fumes, whereas enamels give off fumes and are toxic. You have to work in a fairly ventilated area with enamels. That means if you work in a room, at least a window has to be opened at all times and you need to take breaks from painting. Using a ventilator that pushes fumes out of the room would be a good option too. Acrylics are also easy to dry brush with and are used for washing. A huge range of colors is available, whereas with enamels it is not so. Now, you would say that acrylics are far superior to enamels as it would seem so, but let's take a look at some of the advantages with using enamels. First, they give a nice covering which holds a color well. On the other hand, with acrylics you have to add several coats of color so that the surface looks good. They also give a nice hard coat finish without the sign of brush strokes, and that is in my opinion a very important fact. Acrylics leave a trace of brush strokes and they tend to peel off if not careful with handling of the model. Enamels can be applied without using the primer, whereas with acrylics it is not so, since they don't adhere to the smooth surface very well. And if you make a mistake, you can always remove enamels from the surface using mineral spirits, where acrylics are way harder to remove. Now, that would be all with the pros and cons of the two painting options. I promised before to talk a little bit about my experiment with using an acetone for thinning enamel paint. First, you have to know a very important fact. Acetone tends to melt plastic, so you have to be very careful with using it. I would advise you to use pure 100% acetone and not nail polish remover, because those ones usually contain alcohols and maybe some other chemicals. So, I did a little test on a piece of plastic. I took enamel mixed with Revell Color Mix and painted the right hand side of the plastic piece and took enamel mixed with pure acetone and painted the left hand side. They came out essentially the same, if not, the acetone side looks a little better. It did not melt plastic. I understand this as acetone is highly volatile, as some of you may know, and I think it evaporated before it had the chance to melt plastic. That left us with a very nice coat of enamel paint. So in conclusion, I would definitely recommend to try acetone and see it for yourself. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. And if you like my videos, please subscribe. Goodbye and thanks for watching, guys.